Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to day 25 of the 31 Days of Horror. DBougie86 here again. Yes, guys. Now, the film I got for you guys today is a film from 1963. Of course, it's directed by Roger Corman and is starring Vincent Price. And it goes by the title of Edgar Allan Poe's The Haunted Palace. Now, before I get into the major story of this one, I want to put it out there. The Haunted Palace by Poe is actually a poem. So, to make a full-length feature film of it would be fucking confusing as all hell, and, but it's a fucking awesome title. So what Roger Corman and Charles Beaumont, the writer of this movie, did was take the case of Charles Dexter Ward by H.P. Lovecraft and adapted it to this movie. Just put it as the Sherman of the Haunted Palace as the title, with Vincent Price doing some narration over the movie with the actual poem's prose pretty much throughout it. So it incorporates both Poe and Lovecraft, but it's pretty much more of an H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. Now, with that being said, it's a very famous story by H.P. Lovecraft, the case of Charles Dexter Ward. It was later adapted into The Resurrected, of course starring Chris Sarandon and directed by Dan O'Bannon. And it was very interesting to see an earlier take of it. It's been a while since I've seen this one. I've seen it as a kid, pretty much. It was good revisiting it. And also, I fucking remembered I'll get more into my final thoughts on it. But pretty much the main gist of this movie is we find out, we introduce to our main character of Charles Dexter Ward, of course played by Vincent Price, and he has inherited his great-great-great-grandfather, I believe that's what it is. Oh, great-great-grandfather. I did 3 greats instead of that, but you know what the gist of it is. It was his ancestor's estate, which is in Arkham, Massachusetts. Yes, I love me some Massachusetts references because I'm from there. So they end up inheriting the estate, and we find out the history of Joseph Curran. He was a warlock who terrorized the town. He was doing some warlock type shit back then. And pretty much we find out the gist of it, why this town is the way it is. The night that Joseph Curran died, the villagers turned on him and burned him at the stake. And before they burned him, he put a curse on them pretty much, and saying, your children's children would be cursed as well. And it was really cool that a lot of the same actors were used to play the future selves of these townspeople that killed Curran in the beginning of the movie. So what ends up happening is no one wants to have anything involvement because of the resemblance between him and his great-great-grandfather. So he ends up going up to the palace, him and his wife, and they run into Simon, who's played by Lon Chaney Jr., who is the caretaker of this place, taking care of it. He knows they're coming right away, that type of deal. And pretty much what ends up happening after that, Ward ends up changing as the film progresses, pretty much. And people think that maybe Joseph Curran is back to fulfill his curse, pretty much. That's pretty much the gist of it without going too far into it. Now, my thoughts on the film. Great atmosphere throughout it. Just from the opening shot, you see all the fucking Corman style fucking fog and shit. It's just fucking awesome. And the score that sets it up, I love the credit sequence too. It's like a spider that's spinning a web pretty much, and it's done in this fast motion sensor. It's just fucking great, and I just really dig the story. I'm not really too familiar with how legit of an adaptation this is to the actual Lovecraft story, but there's a lot of great Lovecraftian elements inside this one that makes up, they mention Cthulhu and Yugoso, and they also have the appearance of the Necronomicon in this movie, which is fucking awesome, even though it's kind of cheesy, because the book itself says Necronomicon right on it. So, you just got a little of that Corman cheese inside this one, too. Which is fine, from the period that this film came out, and it's okay that happens within it. Vincent Price is great in it. Of course, he plays dual roles in this one. So, it's interesting the way that the roles change and interchange, pretty much, without going too far into the plot if you haven't seen either the Resurrected or this version of the story. It's very similar in that aspect without giving too much away, because I don't want to really spoil it for you, especially if you haven't seen either version of the movie, pretty much. And, you know, Lon Chaney Jr. is cool. It's cool to see him and Vincent Price act off each other. It's fucking awesome, also, how he just pops up in the movie sometimes and just fucking freaks out the fucking wife. Is like, I heard a noise down here. It's fucking great. I love Lon Chaney Jr. He's fucking great in this. You know, there's some great scenes in this one. Like, I like how the backstory also of why there's this like subplot of like these townspeople that are mutated, and the way the doctor describes why they're mutated, it's fucking cool as all hell. And there's a great scene with them, with Vincent Price and his wife in the film, where there's this group of them circling them pretty much, and then what ends up happening is there's a tension build-in scene as the scene progresses, and it's fucking great. It's great 60s horror at its best, in my opinion. Yeah, really cool fucking movie. For special features on this one, I only watched the one where Kim Newman talks about H.P. Lovecraft. It's really cool. It's like a 30-minute interview with Kim Newman, and he talks about the history of Lovecraft in film and Lovecraft in general, which is really informative. I always like to hear what Kim Newman has to say in like these older movies. There's a lot of special features I still have to watch. I want to watch the one with Corman on this one. There's a commentary also with David Duvall and Derek, of course my name, Botello. I probably butchered the hell out of that. But overall, great release, man. If I had to rate The Haunted Palace, I'm going to give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. I fucking love this movie. If you haven't seen it, I don't really hear people talk about this one when they talk about like the Price, Corman, like Poe movies, even though it's not really a Poe movie per se, but there's some fucking cool shit in this one. And I think people should check this one out. So, Haunted Palace, 8.5 out of 10. Fucking recommend it. Love it. Alright, guys. That's it for this day. As always, we're back tomorrow with another one. Not sure what I'm going to review. Maybe another older film. I'm kind of in an older film mood, you know. So, I'll see you then, guys. Peace out.